Okay, hi folks. Welcome to today's edition of our podcast, My Life with Robert Burns. I'm Douglas Mackenzie, and with my friend and colleague Jim Thompson from Newcombe Burns Club, we'd like to introduce you to our guest for today. We'll say hello to Jim first. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Douglas. Hi, everybody.
We're using Zoom to talk to many of our friends from around the Burns world, and it's great that you can join in and listen to these conversations. Today we have the return of a guest from a previous episode where we ran out of time before we ran out of material. So it's great to welcome back Angus Middleton.
Hello everyone, nice to be back. Thank you.
Angus, when you were last with us, we talked through your own kind of personal history, and we got you into some subjects around the Burns world. But we've discovered that there was lots of other things that we were able to talk to you about, and it allowed us to justify coming back with this other episode. One of the things we were keen to hear from you about was your time as the president of the World Federation. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, via West Kilbride Burns Club, I became a delegate to go to the Ayrshire Association of Burns Clubs, and via that I offered my services to become a delegate to go to the meetings, the quarterly meetings of the Robert Burns World Federation, and I'm just about a perfect attender at them. I went along, and I like to get involved when I join a group. This all goes back to my first West Kilbride Boys Brigade, first West Kilbride, second to none. We very committed, that was the way, because we're a wee village, we strived to, it was all surrounded by bigger towns, but we could hold our own with the best of them. So I think that bit of commitment, it's in you, the way you're brought up, I suppose. But when I went along to the Ayrshire Association and in due course the Burns Federation, I enjoyed the meetings. I'm quite an outgoing guy. Perhaps when you're new to a club, that's why it's important to get a proper welcome and to feel as if you're part of it and not as an outsider. So whether it's a club you're joining or a supper, association or the federation, it's important that the senior office bearers make sure that the new members are embraced. And I think at times perhaps we're a wee bit negligent on that. So anyway, I went in and I got involved, and I sat on the marketing group, as it was called, the section of the federation, and I liked in the afternoon when you heard all the different groups. Because of my business in preservation, I possibly could have joined the heritage, and I would have found that enjoyable. I'm also a big reader. I like reading not just Burns, but Scottish history, and I like reading autobiographies, so I could have sat on the literature committee as well. I could also have sat easily on the conference committee, because I believe in the annual conference, which is going all around the world. It's been a great flag bearer for the federation. But I also could have been in the schools, because I love the schools competition. I love helping to organise them, and more particularly to judge recitation on them. So there was so many boxes in the federation that I could have ticked. So I felt at home there. And Ayrshire, of course, in the heartland, and very strong Dumfries and Galloway, as they were known at the time, southern Scottish counties. But you were also meeting Burnsians from just all over Scotland, but all over England as well, particularly Yorkshire. The Yorkshire district, very, very strong. So I went in and I enjoyed it, and I stuck with it. And I attended until it was suggested. I was quite young. I'm a great believer. I joined things young, and I get involved into the chair in the Masons young. I was 31, and I was just in my 40s when I get involved at the federation. And a few people said to me, "Wait until you're retired. Wait until you're retired." But I just felt that was my time. That's when I had the energy. Because I was running my own business, I could run my own diary. That can be a great thing. I could fill up my diary with Burns quite easily. So you've got to get that balance. And that's how, if you want a job done, give it to a busy man. That's what they say. So that's how I get involved in it. And I did apply you've got to apply to be proposed and seconded to become a junior vice president. Sometimes people they'll stand unopposed. I like it when there's an election. It's happened from time to time. In fact, sometimes we've had 3 going for the post. And I was fortunate enough to be successful down at the Easterbrook Hall down in Dumfries. That's where the conference was that year. And I was installed as junior vice president. And when I took that on, I said, I'll give this job everything, right through, not just through till I'm the president, till I'm the immediate past. And if my services are required, I would always be there for the Federation, and always will be. Yeah.
Very good. Did you get far travelled in your year as president?
I did. Oh yeah, I was lucky. I was lucky in as much as I was installed as the president at the Normandy Hotel at Renfrew. So not so far for that. The funny thing is, my grandpa Smith, my mum's father, he was actually born in Renfrew, and I didn't know that right up until about a month before it. I thought he was born in Glasgow. So that was a nice thing from that personal point of view. I handed over the chain, the annual general meeting, when I handed over the chain to my successor, was actually in Winnipeg in Manitoba. So you attended, they had the RABANA, the Robert Burns Association of North America conference was held, as was the Robert Burns World Federation conference being held, and it was the centenary of the Winnipeg Burns Club. That was why we were all out there at that time. And I think from memory, off the top of my head, I think there was about 60 delegates from the UK went over, which was a massive commitment for people. For those who attended, it was a success. And I handed over the chain. Only got 11 months. That was I got short-changed. It was brought forward from September to August to suit. There was a thing there called the Folklorama, which was probably the big festival, and they thought that it was going to be good for the delegates to come over because there'd be a lot happening. So I got 11 months, and I loved every day, every minute of every day. And where did I go during my sojourn? The highlights, I went over to Stevenson Pond Trust over in Dundalk in Southern Ireland. We went over there because Burns' sister had gone over there. Agnes Galt is by her married name. She is actually buried in the Green Church in Dundalk. And on her grave, I went to her grave. That was a thing, Bert McGregor, he had me around all the graves, saved me around all the statues, the monuments. That was fantastic. I owe him so much for that. But this particular time, on the bottom of her grave, and it's particularly relevant to who we're speaking to today, at the bottom of the grave it says, "Flow gently, Sweet Afton." And that was where the idea for the Sweet Afton cigarettes was to come from. The cigarette company, I think it was Carroll's, Gallagher's were their big rival, and they wanted to get into the Scottish market. So they brought out, and it was a picture of Robert Burns. So I ended up in the Dundalk FM radio doing a chat with a guy by the name of Alan Byrne, who was the chief executive, and he had championed this. It was to try and get tourists to that part, because people would go to Cork, they would go to, say, Tipperary, they would obviously go to Dublin, but to get them to come to Dundalk. So I was also along, me being a football fan, Dundalk FC, very successful, they've been really good. I was along there in the director's box, and that was a great trip to there. The time in life, right place at the right time. There is something in that. You make your own luck in life as well. And some people, you think, oh, they've got that through good luck. And timing comes into it. I was speaking at the Park Hotel in Kilmarnock. We all know I was speaking at a Burns masterclass in there. And it was Dr. Marjorie Palmer McCulloch was the academic speaker, and I was speaking from the Burns world. And at the close of the meeting, people are coming up and asking you questions as usual. And this chap said, "I would love to get you to my Burns Club." And I said, "All right." I said, "Well, if I'm free, you can phone me." And unbeknown, he said to me, he goes, "Oh, but it's Atlanta Burns Club." He said, "That's where I'm a member." And through that timing, and he was good to his word, and I ended up getting invited out there. And In that room that night, in the membership of 110, there was 3 Kilmarnock editions owned by people in that hall. 2 by one man and 1 by another member. 3 in that one room. And they had a real knowledge. They were very into the whiskey trail.
Yeah.
They were also into the clans. That was a big part of it as well, the tartan, and their love for Burns and St Andrew. That was another thing. So they were great experiences for me. I was coming as a Burnsian, but this was an experience of life. And the whole time, it really made me feel very humble that here was Burns who travelled to Carlisle, perhaps Newcastle, you know, just over the border, and who could have gone to the Indies, and yet here we are flying the flag to the 4 quarters of the globe in his memory. I still find that wonderful that we do that people give their time in his memory, and we get pleasure out of it as well. Of that, there's no doubt, as individuals, but we keep this journey going. So the Federation, I think it's a bit like right now we're facing a challenge in society in the country. The churches will be facing challenges coming out of this. All different groups, whether it's young farmers, whether it's curling clubs, whether it's Freemasons, the Rotary, all the parts of the establishment that we know and that they've not quite taken for granted, but they would be accepted, would be there forever. They don't just look after themselves. They're looked after by people, real people who devote time. And it's not all about the president. There's people guddling away in the background. We've got some of the greatest secretaries and treasurers that they've got no ambition to become the president, but without them giving up that time, there would be no organisation and thriving. And I remember Joe saying, we always talk about Joe, it's funny that he left a real, he with so many of us, and again, that's what I like, is the people you meet on this Burns journey. He said to me, my gran used to say, don't get too big for your boots, son, right? That's he used to say that, right? Oh, no. But Joe used to say, see, before you wear the dinner jacket, you've had to have worn the donkey jacket. And I like that. And you have, and I'm a worker by nature. I work with my hands, and I'm a grafter. And I like behind the scene, if you've got a good organisation, and that's where New Cumnock Burns Club scores, you've got this array of talent, all different people doing little bits. See, if you put that collectively, unbeatable. And that's what the Burns Federation should be. You bring the best of all those clubs together and it should be unstoppable. And the most important thing is to forget the individual egos and individual challenges that we have. Do it for the greater good, for the name of the Burns Federation. Don't disgrace the name of it. That's it. And I really hope that we manage to keep things going at club level, at local level, within counties, and more particularly nationally.
I agree entirely.
Yeah.
You also served quite a while as the Ayrshire president. Well, obviously you did your 3 years in the committee of Ayrshire, and I was fortunate enough to be your vice president and enjoyed my time in that committee. In fact, although I've not spent as much time at the Ayrshire Association as I would have liked, but the bottom line to it is at that time it was a busy thing and it was doing lots. Right. And it was through that you got involved up at Muirkirk. You want to tell the people that story?
Love to. I was asked to, as my position of president of the Federation, to go along to schools competition, and then there was going to be a meeting in the museum where Curtie Mandier's statue or bust of Burns was to be unveiled. And of course it was covered, there was a drape over it, and there was a young girl, and I'll only say her Christian name is Elizabeth, and she was to do To a Mouse, and there was a very large attendance all within the in the museum, and she was to do to a mouse, and she got the wind up. She got a wee bit nervous there before it, and she kind of cowered in beside her gran. And Douglas, who is a great facilitator, I've always praised him, and he doesn't like getting praised, but Douglas was kind of cheering it, and he very quickly moved it on. He says, "We'll now ask Angus if he would care to unveil the bust of Burns." And a thing I've got is I'm very quick thinker, and I think on the spot. And I invited Elizabeth to come over and join me, and the two of us would unveil it. And of course, she was 6 foot tall then, and she come over and we took that off. Lovely. But it was the fact that there was a brass plaque on it with my name, and I just wasn't expecting that to be on there. And I kind of looked at that and I thought, wow. And I remember, I've said it before and I'll probably say it again, if ever I can do anything for an organisation, you only have to ask, right? And it was the fact, I could read the Yellow Pages and love it. I could read a phone book and find it enjoyable. And I go through the old Burns Chronicles, which are great documents. And I would read every club, where they met, who the secretary was, who the president was. I love that. And it was the fact that it was the Laprake Burns Club, which was a long established Burns Club, and it had been allowed to fail or to cease just through, that's what happens. It's some rise and fall. And I thought, we could get this Burns Club going again. That was my sort of great hope. But we would use the letter, the epistle to Giles Laprake as the vehicle. And of course, through that, we had a meeting, and the rest, they'll say, is history. And we had a great decade up there with, we had walking, we had the schools, we had the Friday night, the Poets and Pints, which were great, with the performance poets, which are closely aligned to Burns. And of course, we've got Rab Wilson, Tracy Harvey, close to home. If you've got an admiration for the spoken word or song, you'll enjoy it no matter what it is, whether it's Burns or not. And those Friday nights were absolutely fantastic evenings. And the standard, I don't think I was expecting the standard of the winners or the competitors that entered the Epistle to Giles Laprake competition. It was world class. It was unbelievable, and they were so special. Every one of those competitions were. And the bit I've thought about long and hard, when we go to the graveyard, we had great support. One thing I'd like to say here is we had great support from East Ayrshire Council, but we also had great support of all the politicians, regardless of their political party. We had Fiona Lees, the chief executive. We had the provost. They embraced that particular weekend in Muirkirk. The community came out, and that was a bit that really stuck with me, is how that people can work together and make things happen. We get the goodwill of the church. There's a plaque on the wall of the church of all the people who have performed the reading at Giles Laprake's grave, at John Laprake's grave. We also had the school child, or the boy or the girl who were to win the rondo to John Laprake, which was previously penned by a minister up there in Muirkirk. They were to recite that as well. And I remember having Monsignor Sheridan. He was, because Tibby Pagan is also, and of course there's the new Cumnock Muirkirk kind of connection, because she floated between the two places. And we had Gillian Dick up there singing at Tibby's Brig. Wonderful, tremendous days. Where I was going there was, when you look at the trophy, or you were to look at the winners of the trophy, it's the who's who of readers within Scotland. But there are top end reciters on the day were unsuccessful. They didn't win that. Yet in my mind, they're every bit as worthy of any of the winners. We were so fortunate. Now, that was a poem that you probably in the country, if somebody said to me, how many people can do the first epistle to Giles Laprake, I would have said maybe a dozen in the whole country. And all of a sudden, we've got 20, 30, maybe 40 people learning this poem. So that's keeping the Burns story alive. In fact, we had ancestors of John Laprake attended one year, They now live in Edinburgh, Lapraik. So that there was a great memory. Alongside it, the Mauchline Holy Fair, because it went weekend about, so we had some club support there as well, and Maybole, where it all began. So that's where Agnes Brun and William Burness met, and of course that was Robert Burns' mother and father. And little did they know that all those years later we'd be up there at the cairn table, and there was still snow in the cairn table in the middle of the summer, they say, and we were up there. But another thing that I did, Jimmy Curry, he was a great fundraiser. So he was a man that he knew how to open doors to get support, and it brought the community to a point together. You're never going to get as many folk as you can, and I'm a great believer in quit while you're ahead, and I think we did. It was something we can hand the baton on, and now the locals are getting more involved, and hopefully they get that competition going again. There's no reason why it can't. They'll get the go ahead from the Ayrshire Association. I'm quite sure, and I would love to think that they'll do that. Is there still some mileage in it?
Yeah, they've certainly kept the festival going, and hopefully they'll get the competition going as well, because they've got a very active committee now, and it was great that they were able to do that once us outsiders, if you like, sort of stood back and let them get on with it. But no, they're great enthusiasts up there.
Yeah. Okay. The Ayrshire Association. We can talk about that. We had a Zoom meeting. It was our first one last Thursday. Small step forward. We're also going to have the annual general meeting, as of the Robert Burns World Federation is going to have the annual general meeting on Zoom. I think that will be better than nothing, shall we say. Perhaps it's not going to be as good as if we were meeting in person, but social distancing just won't allow a room to get the numbers in. So hopefully this is just a stepping stone to next year, where we might get back to some normality.
Yeah, I think this video chat technology allows us to keep in touch with people, and also allows us to think differently about doing things, different ways of promoting Burns and of keeping everybody involved.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that we always ask people that we're talking to on these video chats is about heroes, and about heroes in Burns, and whether they've got a particular hero in the Burns story. So maybe we could move on and ask you that question, Angus. Have you got any particular heroes?
Well, it was funny, when I was growing up, my big hero was Colin Steen, and I had a poster of Colin Steen on my wall in my bedroom, and each time my mum and dad decorated that room, the poster come down and then it went back up, Colin Steen. And I'm not a person really that kind of hero worships anyone, but I'm a great believer that if I admire someone, Scotland, we're not too good at giving praise to other people. We're a funny race that way, but we recognise heroes or skills or talents inside. And it was just really through me studying Burns that I found the Robert Aiken part interesting, in as much as, because he was given the nickname of Orator Bob. Orator Bob. He was gifted with a gab. And in my immortal memory, I say he was the Jobel Trammy, or the Donald Finlay of his day. And I just kind of made that up myself, just to make it kind of interesting. Because I remember once I sent a boy off at the football, and he shouted to me, "You'll need to send for Beltrami to make this stick." That was it. That was it. And that was the call. Jim there, as a senior police officer, knows. But Robert Aiken, he was a successful lawyer in the county town of Ayr. And I often say that Burns didn't know his works off by heart, and it would be impossible for him to. There was just too many songs, too many poems, to know them off by heart. In fact, it's suggested when he walked with Richard Brown in the Eglinton Woods, he read from manuscript. And I don't mind that. I'd rather, see like at a supper where they say a reading, I would rather someone was doing a reading from a book than no reading it at all, because it just becomes a memory test. And some people can put a poem to memory, but actually can't deliver it in the way that they are because the confidence is not there. So if Robert Aiken, if he did read it aloud, Burns said he never truly valued his own work until he heard orator Bob Aiken recite it aloud. And I think that's what maybe I admired out of him. The fact that he dedicated the Quarter Saturday night to him. So Robert Burns must have thought, and I was thinking, this man was not jealous of Robert Burns. He was happy to promote him, right? He went round and got the surety 145 copies for the Kilmarnock edition, poems chiefly in the Scottish dialect by Robert Burns, given its proper title. 612 copies. He was guaranteeing the price of the paper, really, to Wilson, 145. Calling in his friends, calling in favours, whatever you will. But that was a true friend that he had there in Aiken. And I liked the story. I also like Epistle to a Young Friend. Some people say Epistle to a Young Friend. That's a great story in there as well. And I like that at a supper. It's not too long a poem, and it's got some nice verses in it. But because that was dedicated to Andrew Hunter Aiken, who was Robert Aiken's son, and he went on to be a kind of success in life. And I also went to Robert Aiken's grave. It's in at the old kirk in here, which is behind the Marks and Spencers, funnily enough, Jim mentioned earlier, in Kilmarnock. The old kirk in here is a thing of beauty. That's a beautiful church in there, and a wee bit of a hidden gem, because normally the old kirk would stand proudly in the shopping centre, but it's kind of tucked in. And I've attended many a Burns service, and that's a thing I've liked with the Burns Federation and the Ayrshire Association, where we attended the church service in January to commemorate Burns' birth. And the funny thing being that his suppers used to be held to commemorate his death in the summer. The first one was in 1801 in July, but we reverted to the winter time. And a Burns supper it's a kind of winter activity, because you always associate it with going out in the cold wintry nights, and makes it a warm welcome when you go in. So the Robert Aiken, you'll get it in the Collins book. You won't get it in the Mackay, and I'm a great believer in the James Mackay complete works. It's not in there, but it's on the Burns Federation website. So if anybody's listening to this, you would find it. You will get it on the Burns Federation website, but it's in the Collins of Glasgow book. And the last verse of it is, a lot of the old Scots words are dying out, and I like them to be kept alive. And so I've got some cracking glossaries. I go through them all so that I've got the best knowledge I can of them. But the word praetor was father, and it was in William Burness's deathbed, where he was saying he fretted for one of the family and being the firstborn in Robert. And the word praetor in there, in the last verse, it really makes it more poignant to me, and is that when Burns saying to Jean Armour, to his wife, I'll be better thought of 100 years from now than I am at present, or worse to that effect, that if only William Burness and Agnes Brown could see what this boy was to be achieved. Now that's said so many times, just as a kind of throwaway line, like, what would Burns think if he was to come to a Burns supper? And I've often thought, if I was to meet him, I would say, have we portrayed you accurately? You know, are we doing it? Because I don't have him necessarily up there on a pedestal. He was a real man. I think he'd been quite a difficult individual at times. I think he would. Very much an academic mind on him. He could converse at all levels. So it must have been frustrating for him working in the farm with farm labourers, dry stain dikers, ditchers and drainers. How could he be stimulated? But he's stimulated with the pen, or wee stumpy as he calls it. And I remember one time at supper somebody saying to me, how long did it take you to learn Tam O'Shanter? Now there's longer poems than Tam O'Shanter. There's the 142 Brigs of Air, for example. And somebody would say, how long would it take you to learn that? So they said, well, go and get a quill, or Stumpy as Burns called this. Stumpy was worn to a gristle. Go home tonight, get a candle out and sit down with a quill and ink and write that, and see how many hours it would take you to write the thing, never mind to learn it. And Burns was prolific. That's the bit that amazes me. And you're slagging me at the beginning saying a wee bit of grey hair. Can you see that on there? Can you? Right?
Ain't not got a spotlight on it.
Well, the thing is, we didn't have Burns with grey hair, because sadly he didn't live long enough. 37 years, and you think with that guy crammed in, at the age of 15, 22 years. Incredible. We owe him so much. Not only owe Burns. Burns was to encourage other writers. There's been other great Scottish writers, and there will be, there will continue to be, and that's been perfectly exemplified this time on Bobby Jess's Facebook, which has been one of the greatest things to come out of this pandemic. Say that people were looking forward to that every day, right? Joe McGinty, we all remember Joe. Yep. One of the good guys, a man that truly loved. Joe wouldn't claim to know all about Burns, but he loved the Burns family. He was in that people pay lip service to that, saying the people you meet, the friends you make. It's so true that. And but Joe loved the Burns family, and that's a true story. He was doing a job for a lady, and she says, "Oh, I've got Angus Middleton coming in next week to do the woodworm." And Joe said to her, "Oh, Angus is a lovely guy. Oh, straight as a die. But don't mention Robert Burns." He says, "You'll be there all day." And that's the thing. Burnsians, we live Robert Burns every day. And I just don't know what just every single day there's a part, you're quoting things from him, they're part of your normal conversation. I certainly read them every day. I'll read things about him every day, and I enjoy him every day. So the To Robert Aiken, that's what it's called. I'll give you a wee verse or two of that. In the last verse, remember that the word praetor is father, because that's the critical word there to make it more important. So, assist me, Coiler, while I sing the virtues of a crony, that in the blessings friendships bring has ne'er been matched by money. And was this man sick land again? There can be nae mistaken, as if there could be mail in yin, step for it, Robert Aiken. When I had neither poon nor plack to rub on yin another, when hope's horizon seemed as black as midnight altogether, when chased and challenged by the law, my heart was after quaking, what stood my steady fear for all, O Hobbit, Robert Aiken, when he and she, both young and old, were bent on my undoing, and tried by lees and scandals bald to drive me clean to ruin. Whenever Yince withdrew his smile, or listened to the clakin, he's a friend that's worth the while, a man like Robert Aiken. And the last verse really hits home to me. The time will come, this is Burns talking about himself, the time will come when I'll be deemed a poet grander, greater than ever prophesied or dreamed the lewdest, prudest prater. Now let this fact be published too, that at the bard's awaken, the truest, kindest friend he knew was surely Robert Aiken. That's it. Love it.
Well done, Angus. That's a fantastic way to finish our episode of My Life with Robert Burns. So it just leaves it to me and Jim to thank you once again for your time and for giving us the extra time for this second episode. So thanks very much, Angus.
Yes, thanks, Angus. And if I can just say, Douglas, I'm going to say something now for posterity that I say to Angus all the time, and I know it embarrasses him, but without hesitation of a doubt, the best ambassador for the Burns movement in my lifetime. And I thank you for being that.
I appreciate that very much, Jim. They think it's all over. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now. Thanks for your time.